See, Hollywood? This is what happens when you put actual talent behind the camera. Welcome to Round the Clock Frights. I'm Josh.
I'm Thor.
And I'm Brian.
And what we're going to do on this channel is talk about horror movies all year long. We started this channel because at least the two of us are hardcore horror fans. And
love horror.
And I'm a newcomer to the horror genre.
Yes, he's a newbie. A lot of YouTube channels, what they really do is they only focus on horror reviews at certain times of the year. But as you know, as horror fans,
there's good offerings of horror all year round. If you know where to
like
find
in January.
them. January is the best fucking time for horror movies.
Right?
My favorites have come out that time of month, like Devil Inside.
Oh yeah, no, that's great.
The fourth kind.
Texas Chainsaw was great. Trey Songz, he's like an underrated talent. Absolutely. For right now, we're mostly going to be talking about new releases in theaters, but
we're definitely going to be going back to the movies that inspired the genre in the past.
Particularly if I watch them for the first time, and then I can give my thoughts and you can see my development with the horror genre.
The new Texas Chainsaw over the old one. Sorry, no comparison.
The old one didn't have Trey Songz though.
Yeah, but the old one had Tobe Hooper.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Tobe Hooper, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but when he was directing Poltergeist, he actually didn't take charge of the entire crew. And so it's rumored, allegedly, that Spielberg actually directed the movie.
Rumored?
Oh God, Spielberg's so overrated.
Josh is gonna kill you for saying that.
You just cut right there.
Basically, Joshua likes a lot of the more modern horror movies, and I'm more of a classicist. So in this, you'll get a lot of different views.
Yes. And who knows, we might eventually segue into, like, the classics, maybe TV shows. Just like anything, really. So yes, our gimmick is that me and Thor are the horror veterans. We've been watching horror movies for many years now.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm the newbie.
Yes, so you get, like, different perspectives. Today, we're going to be talking about what some critics have called the Empire Strikes Back
of
horror, which is Ouija, Origin of Evil.
And obviously Empire Strikes Back is a better movie, but in the sense that, from what I hear at least, this is a complete 180 turnaround from the original, because I haven't seen the original, these guys have.
Oh God.
Oh God.
We'll talk about that. But initial thoughts on Ouija, Origin of Evil, what did you guys think?
I thought it was okay. I have a huge respect for the horror genre, and so what I don't lower my standards when it comes to acting, directing, cinematography. When it comes to the genre, like, I'm sorry, a lot of people do that. I don't. So for me, it was okay. They had a lot of really good moments, a lot of cheesy moments.
Oh, yes.
But it was enjoyable.
It's passable for this time of year. I mean, for the past few years, we've had at least one major studio release, like, you know, for Halloween. And last year was Crimson Peak, which was a good movie. This year, it's this. And personally, I thought it was decent, you know? I don't really see it as, like, the Empire Strikes Back of horror. Like,
well, the original Ouija was nowhere near Star Wars.
Oh, God.
So.
No.
Levels, dude, levels.
The original would be like a really shitty sci-fi movie, something like
Star Trek the Motion Picture.
Star Trek the Motion Picture.
And then to Wrath of Khan.
Or...
Oh, that's a good comparison.
That is a really good comparison, actually.
Yeah.
But competently made.
Definitely.
I thought it was, you know, I thought it was well made and everything. Brian?
I'm mostly with Thor. I thought it was average, slightly above average. From what I can gather, pretty standard fare, but I'm glad I saw it. Some decent moments, some cheesy moments, some decent acting.
What I can say about this movie is that the director, Mike
Oh
Flanagan...
my gosh, so much better than the first one.
So much better. He is actually one of my favorite modern horror directors. He did Oculus, which was 2013. He did this year's Hush. And what this guy's
Neither
really
of which
good
I've
at,
seen.
I would recommend him. Personally.
Very good, very good. Oculus was great. Other than the fact that they could have avoided the whole thing.
Now, what I think he's really good at is he takes some of those classic methods of horror where when he's constructing a scene, he'll have something scary just standing. Like,
yes.
Like in a dark room or like the end of a hallway, and he doesn't
go for the jump scare in those moments. What he does is he just uses it to build the atmosphere of the movie. And he used that a lot of times to great effect in this one as well. You can see it's becoming kind of like a signature for him, almost like J.J. Abrams and the lens flare. Turn it into a drinking game, guys.
This movie would have been much more terrifying if, like, every time something scary popped up on screen, there was just a big old lens flare. Well, there was actually the editing for this movie, they actually did make an attempt to make it look like one of those old-time movies. They put like the cigarette burner. If you guys don't know what that is, it's like the circular dot that'll appear like in the corner of a frame.
They talk about it in Fight Club.
They talk about it in Fight Club, yes.
Even though we're not supposed to talk about that movie.
I don't talk about Fight Club. Even from the beginning, the credits, the opening credits, the opening title sequence, it retained that retro feel, that old feel, to where you felt like you were watching a movie from the time period that it was emulating, rather than a movie that was set back then.
And in both of those regards, that was actually one of my favorite things about the movie. Like, the opening credits I thought were a wonderful touch, and then what you were saying about movies set during that time, because one of my favorite things about the movie was kind of the period detail they had.
They had a lot of period detail.
Like, they worked very well with the production design and the costuming. I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. I wouldn't have expected that from Ouija.
Controversial statement here, yes. Controversial statement. You guys were talking about how they made an effort to make it look like one of those old-time movies. Personally, I thought what they did was very distracting.
What?
As far as, like, because, well, let me explain. I admire this director going the extra mile, you know, as far as, like, kind of, you know, making everything look a little bit more, like, dated and everything. But when they did, like, the cigarette burn, like, at the corner of the screen, every time they did that, it just came off as distracting to me. Because it was obvious this was shot on digital, this was not shot on film. And, like, this is a modern-day movie, and when you're watching a modern-day movie shot on digital, looking so crisp, so clean, like squeaky clean, it just came off as unnecessary.
So are you saying they should have shot it on film?
For this movie, I think it should have been shot on film. Like, absolutely.
Honestly, I disagree with you, because after letting myself, you know, you always, whenever you go into a movie, there's a suspension of disbelief. You let yourself believe that what's happening on screen is real. That's how you connect to it, that's how you get scared, all those kinds of things. Once you let go of that, once you just said, okay, I'm going to sit back and enjoy this, honestly, I completely forgot about the cigarette burn. It just became part of that whole motif, that whole thing that made it feel aged to me. Almost like this movie should have come out first, and Ouija wasn't the original movie, but it was the sequel to the prequel. It gave it that aged feel, almost like the director was like, okay, this is what was supposed to come out first. Almost an apology to the fans, and I liked that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so let's talk about the plot.
Yes, let's talk about the plot.
Before we talk about this movie's plot, let's just do a brief recap.
That's the first movie.
Oh, the first
movie is a complete recap.
But just to give you guys the idea of what's going on. In the first movie, you have a girl who stupidly and against the rules plays Ouija in her very haunted house by herself, which anybody knows she's going to die. She does die, and her friends, so disturbed by her loss, decide to find out what happened. So basically the idiot plot.
Yeah, as Roger Ebert described it.
Yes, and I will say this, I am thoroughly surprised that Hasbro has not filed for bankruptcy at this point, because how many people have freaking died because of this board game that was released with a family audience in mind?
It was.
I know
it was supposed to be bonding time.
From Ouija.
All my ex-girlfriends.
And anyways, basically, everybody dies. They find out that there was a ghost that they have to free. Oops, twist ending. The ghost was the evil thing. Like, they didn't get that from Ringu.
The little girl
is
the evil spirit in that movie, yes.
So, when we go back, now we're learning when I first walked into the theater, the completely unnecessary origin of that, because apparently we're learning about how the little girl got possessed and in the situation to begin with.
Yes, very briefly, you did say unnecessary. When they first announced this movie, I thought it sounded like the most unnecessary cash grab like I've ever heard of.
It's the Phantom. I thought it would be the Phantom Menace of horror movies.
Yes, but
But
like
that
I
would
said
have meant
earlier,
that disappointed.
yes, but like I said earlier, when I heard that Mike Flanagan was attached to direct, I perked up. Like, I got excited.
And again, a good director, good crew, good acting, good writing,
Yeah.
all of those kinds of things can save a movie. And even if I thought it was, well, unnecessary, it was still a good time. And again, spoilers, guys. Can't say that enough.
This whole video is going to be spoilers. We don't want to filter what we're saying.
So, in this movie, you meet the mom for the first time, the daughter Doris, and her older sister Lena. And you find out what happened in order to make all of the next movie, which was definitely unnecessary.
The
happened.
first one was unnecessary.
Oh God, yes.
Ironic, the franchise starter is the unnecessary one.
Honestly, if they had come out with Ouija Origin of Evil first, I would have been excited about the sequel. I've been like, okay, let's see what happened next. And in this one, innocence both won and lost.
Yeah. Brian, we'll segue over to you. What was the general plot of this movie?
Okay, so it's essentially this mother is working as a sort of con artist a little bit, trying to communicate with the dead or with people's dead loved ones.
Yeah.
Essentially to get money because their house is facing foreclosure, and then one of the daughters finds a Ouija board and finds that she's able to actually communicate with the dead. And so they start using that, again, for authenticity to their performances, essentially. But surprise, surprise, it backfires because the youngest daughter, Doris, gets possessed. And hijinks ensue.
Hijinks.
Very wacky hijinks. This is like a sequel to Home Alone, actually, now that I think about it.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, you were talking about how they're con artists. Well, what I was actually thinking of when it comes to that is John Edward. She's like the John Edward of this movie.
Hey, I was thinking Harold Hill.
Or Harold Hill. Yes, that's
Excellent
a great
examples.
Great analogy.
Basically, she uses seances to basically give people what they want to hear.
Yes, it reminds me of that South Park episode with John Edward, where he's going on like this. He's going on this like.
He's going to bring up
rant
South Park every episode.
every
just
single
to let you know.
episode.
We'll make sure of it.
But like, it's a really great episode because John Edward basically says that no, he's offering people closure. You know, he's like offering relief to loved ones. And Stan Marsh is just like, no, you're offering people false hope, and that makes you a complete douche. That's what I was thinking of when it came to this character, but...
On the other hand, she does play it very sympathetically as a mother who just lost her husband, who's having to deal with two daughters in an era where women working outside the home was not as readily accepted as now. She's facing bills, she's facing all of these issues and this is the only way that she knows of because of the way she was raised in order to make money.
I actually quite like that characterization. I felt like...
I did too.
Yeah.
Speaking of characterization, let's talk about the main actors in this movie. Now, the biggest one that I want to mention is Henry Thomas because, I mean, we both know who Henry Thomas is. I mean,
exactly. How can you not know?
He is iconic.
Very iconic.
And what was the movie he was in? Like back in the old day, what was it?
Oh my gosh, it was
Psycho 4, A New Beginning.
That's right,
the kid. He was a young Norman Bates.
I know,
so
that was the...
Rest of the actors in this movie,
they were pretty good. I mean, Henry Thomas had some issues. Half the time I didn't know if he was playing the creepy priest, if he was going to bang the mom while being a priest. He was very Thornbirds. Or if, he was a good guy. He just had this creepy vibe to him for most of the time that you didn't know where he was going. Now, again, in the end, he totally was not where I thought he was going in that he did not bang the mom. He wasn't the creepy priest trying to, segue in there and, become the bad guy in a twist at the end. He was pretty straightforward. He just had a creepy vibe to him.
Yeah.
So you're saying he played it effectively, though?
Yeah, if that's where the director wanted him to go, just to keep us guessing with the character, then yeah. If I always look for a twist in the movie because apparently that's what horror movies have become. Find the twist.
With the twist.
Yeah. But there was none with his character. He was just a guy who honestly kind of went into the priesthood, becoming a priest, because he was still grieving for his dead wife. The priest went on a date.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that scene briefly?
Yes.
Because we were ripping that scene in the parking lot.
Oh my god.
But let's talk about that scene.
So set up. So Henry Thomas is very interested. I'm going to try to make this sound appropriate. He is
God.
Father Henry Thomas is very interested in this.
Father Tom
is very interested
Weirdly
in
enough.
these two little girls.
He's
And
also interested in the entire family.
That's not as
It's
bad as it
so-
sounds. That's not as bad as it sounds.
No. Let me say this because it almost is as bad as it sounds because throughout the first half of the movie, that's all he asks about. He's always asking about where these little girls are, how the little girl's doing. Can I talk to your little girl, please? And he pops up in the most random places.
Yeah, but towards that first half, yeah, you're going, okay, is this guy creeper material or what?
Yes.
But towards the end, you realize that he just
Is this a sequel to Spotlight?
no.
That was a sequel to Doubt with Meryl Streep.
Oh.
Great movie,
No.
by the way.
No sons. So the priest is really concerned about this family because he understands all this pressure that the mom is under, that the kids are facing. And he understands that at that time, that's a really good opportunity for negative forces to get into your life, whether it's through friends, whether it's through media, or whether it's through a Ouija board.
Yeah.
You're going to have those negative influences try to come in when you're vulnerable. And these girls, they just lost their dad. They're facing an uncertain future. If you guys paid attention, you'd realize they just moved schools. So this was not the school they went to when their dad was alive. They moved schools after their dad died.
Right.
So the way this priest got introduced to them was, here are my daughters, their dad just died.
They're grieving.
They're grieving.
So set up for the scene, he is worried about them. So
Yeah.
he
invites the mom on a date.
He invites the mom on a
Because
date.
that's what priests do, I guess.
No priest that I've ever known.
Well, not only just that,
He's
but,
the hipster priest.
But when she goes to meet him at the restaurant,
I thought she was going on a date.
he acts almost entirely clueless about what the situation is because the mom is dressed up very nicely.
She looks beautiful.
She looks beautiful. She meets him at this very fancy restaurant.
Yes.
They sit down and have a nice conversation together. And then they start talking about what their exes used to do for each other. And she brings up that, oh, this restaurant, my husband used to bring me here all the time.
No.
And that's
he said that he and his wife went there
Yes.
once a month.
Yeah, and that's
So
when,
he
that's
takes
right.
this woman to his and his wife's date night restaurant.
And like I said, he remains almost entirely clueless until they have that conversation. And then the light bulb goes off
And he says,
oh, what does he say?
let's talk about your daughters.
Yes, the scene ends with his hands on the table, and then he just goes, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that, that you thought that was what the situation was. But
No.
Let's talk about your daughters
now. We did like Henry Thomas in this movie. We
No,
loved his
he was
character.
good.
He did.
Yeah, he was good.
I thought he was having fun. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the little girl in this movie, played by Lulu Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah. She had,
I thought she was very good.
I thought she was really good too. She had a really good creep factor. She wasn't necessarily scary without the CGI effects, but she definitely was creepy. And she was able to master a stillness about her.
You had mentioned the twins in The Shining, right?
Yeah.
Come play with us, Danny.
And it's their stillness that kind of builds the tension. And in this, the actress that plays Doris is able to have that stillness as well, to where you don't know when she's going to spring forward, if she's going to spring forward, is she smiling and suddenly going to stab somebody. She's able to get this stillness about her that actually ratchets up the tension a little bit.
And I think many of her line readings, she added a decent amount of menace to it and made it sound very creepy.
The
felt natural.
strangulation scene is one thing that stands out to me. You guys might have seen this in a preview or as a clip on YouTube. but the scene where she describes what it's like to be strangled to death was said very matter-of-factly. It had a little bit of smile to it, like she was talking about, did you know that kittens do this? She said it with the same tone, the same inflection, and that made it creepier.
I haven't seen her in like anything else, but like I can tell she's gonna have quite the career because what she
if she handles it carefully.
Hope
so now what we're gonna do is for every episode that we do, one of us is gonna have a series of questions or topics to ask the other two. I volunteered to ask the questions this time.
Yay,
we're
homework.
gonna start with Brian.
Okay.
Since here's our horror newbie, and I'm really interested to hear his perspective. So, Brian.
Yes?
What I find most important about the horror genre is character. To me, in a horror movie, a character should either be likable or sympathetic, someone you can root for. It makes the horror more palpable, and it makes it more intense. You know, when shit hits the fan, you have someone to root for. So, my question for you is, did this movie have likable or at least sympathetic characters that you could root for?
Generally, yes, I thought so.
Okay.
I mean, we were talking about the mother character earlier, and how, in a sense, she was sort of a con artist initially, but I felt like the film did a good job of establishing her background in that this was kind of the way she was raised, and at the same time that she was genuinely doing this to provide for her family, not even just as an excuse, but no, she genuinely wanted to provide for her family, and so I thought she had a very sympathetic motivation, and I mean I felt sympathy for them because this was a family still grieving after their father's death.
You really do. I mean, you feel bad for like this family. They're going through a lot. I mean, their house is like risking foreclosure, and their father just passed away. The mother is still grieving. It's very impressive how much emphasis this movie puts on its characters.
Yeah, I mean the only not as positive note I have in that regard is that I feel like the characters are maybe a bit archetypal.
Yes.
Very.
Yes. Very.
But I thought they were sympathetic.
Something the original did not have, by the way. The original was a god-awful piece of crap, and the characters were so unbearable.
They were very one-dimensional in the first one, and because of that, you were like, okay, they died.
Yeah.
Thor?
This one, you had a little bit more sympathy. I'm coming from a different place from these guys in that I am married. I have been married for almost 10 years now. We have 3 wonderful kids. So the idea of losing my husband and then immediately having to figure out everything for kids, that in itself is terrifying for a mother.
Right.
That's why we have people with life insurance and everything else like that. It is devastating to go from having someone who you share your life with, the responsibilities, the good, the bad, everything,
the ugly,
the beautiful, to not having that support, to not having that friend that's there all the time. I felt very sympathetic towards this mom because there's nothing that I wouldn't do to make sure that my kids were safe and had a roof over their head and had food to eat and everything else like that. So I was definitely in the mother's camp, and she wasn't doing it to hurt anyone. She said that several times. We're helping them find closure. We're helping them find closure. We're giving them this because we need the money, but we're helping them find closure.
And you also feel sympathy for like both of the daughters, like at least at first. Like the teenage daughter,
I felt sympathy for the daughters throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, she does, like the teenage daughter in this movie, she does come across as a skeptic at first. She doesn't entirely believe what's going on, but she eventually warms up to it. I mean, I guess you would.
I wouldn't say warming up to it.
I guess you would if you were forced to do it. More terrified.
Yeah.
She does make some very smart choices, though, at the same time. And
smarter than many of the other characters.
Yeah, she seems to be the one that, honestly, you were rooting for the most. Because she's skeptic at first, because just like any normal person would be, she was raised in this environment. She knows all of the tricks. She doesn't believe because she hasn't seen any evidence through all of this time that her mom's been a medium. But when she starts to see that there's something else going on, she immediately starts watching out for it. She immediately goes to authority. She immediately says, okay, there's something wrong here. Let me talk to my mom.
And that goes to my only other negative note about the characters is that many of the other characters aside from her, their obliviousness to some of
Yes.
the stuff that was happening
Well,
was
the moment-
a little stupid.
The mom I forgive, because when you want to believe something, it's
Yes.
very, very powerful.
That's fair.
And apart from those two, the little girl was adorable.
Yes.
She really. We actually had when we went to the movie theater, we had a group of teenagers sitting next to us to the left.
Oh,
And
God.
at one point during the movie, during one of the little girl's speeches, the girl next to us audibly said, "Aw, she is so adorable." So
She was very adorable, and not only that, she had a hope about her.
see, guys, that's what this movie did to us, because especially in modern day horror, I mean, if you can get one likable, well-rounded character, I mean, it's almost like close to a miracle. And this movie had a handful of them, so very impressive with the writing, very impressive.
Not always
with
the smartest characters, but likable.
Very likable.
Yes. You knew that they were going to die before they did, because you're like, yeah, don't go in there.
Oh God.
You went in there. Okay, you know, that's, you're done. But I wish that you would be able to find a way out of it.
Yeah.
You're kind of wanting that as well.
Speaking of characters who were like set up to die, the teenage boyfriend in this movie
couldn't have been more telegraphed.
He was so cannon fodder, it was not even funny.
It was a moving target. He was almost the Sean Bean of this movie.
Hey, Sean Bean dies hell of a lot better.
Because yes,
Sean Bean would have gone out like a warrior.
We didn't even see this guy
the
die.
demons into.
We didn't
he would
even
have
see
killed
this guy
like
die.
6 of the demons. This guy just kind of.
Like what happens is that near the end of the movie, he goes into the house to make out with his girlfriend some more or whatever.
Yeah.
And the
He
little
shows
girl,
up.
he shows up. He was in the neighborhood. Classic guy move. So the little girl, who is like full-on demon at this point, she invites him down to this dark, creepy basement.
Okay,
And that's already suspicious.
Real quick, let's preface this first. Realize this is after that strangulation monologue. He has already said, "Hey, what's up, little girl?" She's described to him what it feels like to be strangled in a very creepy way that was menacing because it was so matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
He's already left there, gotten out alive, and been like, okay. Mm-hmm. Walked out. He comes back in. The girl invites him. Very creepy. She had not let go of that. I mean, that creep factor was there because you could tell something was saying, "Get out," because he tried to leave several times, and she was saying, "No, stay. She'll be right back." And instead of walking out and saying, "It's okay, I'll come back later," he follows her into the basement.
And all the while just going, "What's going on here?"
It's like the character Mark from The Room. He is so oblivious to the circumstance. He's like, "Wait a minute, what's going on?"
Brian loves The Room. That's
we
why
both love The Room. Yes.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
So he follows her down to the basement. After she said all these creepy things, and she asks him to stick his hand in this dark hole in the wall.
And he does
he
it.
does it several times, totally oblivious. She's like, "Oh, I left some family jewels in there." No innuendo there. "I left some family jewels in this hole. Will you please stick your hand into this glory hole, or this hole, and please grab these jewels for me?" And he does it. He's just like, "Okay."
Completely doesn't even, shift to where he can keep his eye on the little girl while he's doing that.
No, he focuses all his attention.
Turns his back, like awkwardly, turns his back and sticks his hand into the hole.
Yep.
And the director again does that whole something scary in the room, over your shoulder, a little bit out of focus, to ramp up the thing because you're like, okay, yeah, she's gonna kill him. All right.
So moving on to my next question. Again, we'll start with Brian.
Yeah.
So, Brian.
Yes.
You said that you had not seen the first movie. Did this have a self-contained story that at least you could follow?
For the most part, I could follow it. If there was anything I could say as a newcomer, it's that in many ways, just because I'm so unfamiliar with the first one, and frankly, I went in cold to this one, the entire time I was trying to figure out how it tied to the first one.
Right.
Like what the connection was going to be. And at the end, I generally think I got that, but I was never really confused about anything. I understood what was going on, and by the end I was thinking, okay, I think I can see how this ties to the first one.
Okay. So are you saying that this movie couldn't necessarily exist without the first one? Is that what you're saying? Because it left so many questions like in the air? What do you think?
If this was the first movie, I think it could work.
Okay.
If this was the first movie in a franchise, I think it could work.
Thor, moving over to you.
Go
Is the
ahead.
first movie even necessary to this story?
It's not. This sequel has a great plot, has its own arc, and the only thing that was ruined by the first movie for the second for me was that you already knew who was going to live, who was going to die.
Yes.
Because you already know that since this is a prequel. And that's the curse of all horror movie prequels, is that the only thing that you get to be surprised on is the details if you had an unreliable narrator in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
How you get there.
Yeah, how you get there, but you still know the ending. It's like picking up a mystery novel, reading the back few pages of who done it, and then just reading the book so that you can see the journey.
Yeah, I also did read an interview with the director, and he basically said that he knew the first movie was like a piece of dog shit, and he said he was going to fix all the mistakes that movie made, and he was going to make this one so much better, and
I think
he delivered.
I think he did.
Yes.
Like I said, it's not too scary. You're not going to go home and, look over your shoulder. But it's good. It's enjoyable. It's well acted. It's well written, except for the cheesy lines, but the actors pulled through on that.
Mm-hmm.
It's well shot.
Yes.
You could definitely see the director's influence on that. They had great atmosphere, good tension.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he fulfilled his promise.
Can we just say, because they're making another Halloween movie, it's gonna happen. Blumhouse is behind it. It is being produced. Well, I don't know if it's produced, but John Carpenter is attached to it. Can we just say right now that, if you guys haven't chosen a director yet, that Mike Flanagan,
Please,
should be your
he's-
guy?
I could see him doing
I could
it.
see him doing it.
Absolutely.
I can see
I can
him
see him
bringing
doing
it back to what Halloween was supposed to be about.
As long as they don't bring back
Understand.
Rob Zombie.
God.
Rob Zombie did have some ethos that he put into it. Had some deeper stuff that went into it, other than the whole Michael Myers was just, their family was just cursed and screwed. Which, if you saw the 6th Halloween,
Yeah.
then it explained it was some Celtic curse.
But I saw both cuts of Halloween 6. That's how much I know this.
Okay, so
I've seen neither
I
cuts.
thought if one thing that Rob Zombie did that was better above the original is that he gave a backstory to it that was believable and connectable.
But
Because I'm sorry, mental illness is something that is, especially during that time and period, it was something that was very, very taboo. It was like a curse in the family. Not that it is. It was looked at almost like that in certain ages in our history. And I thought he did a good job bringing that out. But everything else sucked compared to the original.
And I absolutely agree.
And fun fact, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is Josh's least favorite movie of all time.
That movie is balls. I hate Halloween 2. Don't even get me started, guys. We're going to turn this into a 5-hour video.
Please don't start.
Anyway, yes. Blumhouse. Mike Flanagan. You have him at your disposal.
He did a good job.
So, final topic of the night. I wanted to ask you guys about your overall impressions of the movie.
I liked it. My overall impressions is it was fun. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
You had a couple of really good moments where you were creeped out. You had you had at least one really, really good jump scare that I love. The first one was awesome. You guys will know why. And honestly, I'd watch it again. Maybe not in the theaters, but I can see downloading this and keeping it as part of my library to go back and just rewatch it and have some fun with.
And I could see it becoming a franchise now too. I mean, make this the next Saw. Every Halloween, give us a new Ouija movie and attach a director of to it.
I'm not sure because
Just
then
don't.
it would just be rehashing the plot over and over and over.
Okay.
There's not much you can do as far as creativity.
It had decent atmosphere, decent acting, decent craft.
In defense of the stupid characters,
Yeah.
you're not going to have a horror movie without them.
True, but
That's a given.
true, but so what the heck? I'll give this a recommendation.
Now, you were talking about conventions. This movie did pay homage to several classic horror movies.
The Exorcist shot. See if you can find it.
There's The Exorcist shot. There's this movie reminded me a little bit. Actually, no. Speaking of The Exorcist, I mean the Ouija board goes back to the original Exorcist movie.
It does. There's a lot in it, but again, you had spirit boards throughout history.
Right.
Gypsies used them back for the Forevers, so that's not necessarily a new thing, but I do have to say they did pay homages through shots, through references, through little Easter eggs, which horror fans, see how many you can find. There are quite a few.
There are quite a few, which is another reason why I love Mike Flanagan, because he does do that with these movies. He throws in little touches and Easter eggs.
He's kind of like Joss Whedon. Yeah. Sorry, that's my favorite director. He's kind of like Joss Whedon in that he loves the genre he's in. And so he likes to do the fan service in subtle ways that does not take away from the movie itself.
Okay. Now, my overall impressions of the movie, I thought it was very decent. You know, I thought, like, it was much better than it had any right to be. I mean...
much better than I expected.
Like we were saying at the beginning of this movie, some critics have called this the Empire Strikes Back of horror.
Don't install Star Wars like that.
I will say that this is probably the biggest turnaround for a horror franchise I have ever seen. Like, the first... To have... Because most franchises are started with a movie that's at least kind of well received.
Yes.
The first movie was universally hated by almost everyone except Michael Bay, who put all the bills into his wallet. He produced it, by the way.
Yeah.
And
stop it.
To make a franchise.
Stop it, Michael Bay.
Yeah, to make a franchise based off of that movie, it seemed almost inconceivable, but they really pulled it off.
They did.
They did.
Yeah.
Now, what we're going to do at the end of these videos is we are going to have an aggregate score. We're going to take all three of our scores out of 10, and we're going to add them up into one solid rating.
All right.
So, my score out of 10 would probably be a 6.5.
That would be my score as well.
I'm pretty much in agreement. It's enjoyable, it's good, but it's not good enough to be a 7.
So, we all gave it a 6.5, so that gives it an aggregate score of 6.5 out of 10. Which in our book would be solid.
Solid, decent, and go ahead and buy it for download when it comes out, if it's on sale.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. If you like this video, you can subscribe. We hope to do more of these, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Later.
See ya.